Hello and welcome to the Made in Romance podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Bailey, and we also have my co-host here.
Hey everyone, it's Sab.
Hi Sab, how are you doing today?
I'm not bad at all. How are
You're
you?
not... I'm good. I'm good. Mostly.
Oh, good.
Okay. So today, on today's podcast, we're going to be talking about why are women so judgmental?
Oh, goodness me.
Oh, goodness me. So this kind of might come across as quite a controversial topic, but we thought, well, let's just go ahead and discuss difficult subjects on this podcast because why not? And this is obviously our first episode, which is quite exciting, isn't it?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so we're just going to jump straight into this. So I'm just going to start by discussing why we wanted to talk about this topic. So I would like to make it clear that we're going to be talking about why women can be so judgmental of heroines as opposed to heroes in books. I know that we can judge heroes too, but but I think that this topic could apply to everyday life as well. I think we could all agree that women are pretty judgmental at times.
It's true.
This is true. So I don't know about you, but I think I found this really prevalent in reviews I've read where I see a lot of women judging women. And not to say that they don't judge men too, but I feel like we're putting so much pressure on women to act a certain way in stories sometimes. And, they can't be too whiny, too stupid, too bossy, too everything. So, like, if a heroine doesn't apply, or conform to a certain set of rules, then they're seen as a character who's unrelatable or difficult to connect with, which I can understand to a certain extent. I would say I've had my fair share of that occurring myself, so I'm not exactly going to say, oh, I don't judge anyone, because I think we would all be lying if we said we didn't judge anyone.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
Exactly. But I feel like I'm starting to notice when I do it more. And I'm kind of starting to see myself going, actually, am I being judgmental, or is this hero or heroine actually being too much, or I just can't deal with them? And I found a lot of the time that it is me being judgmental, to say the least. I kind of like to think, why are we doing this? Why are we so judgmental? I mean, I don't know. Do you know? Maybe.
I mean, I think there's a fine line between I think there's a fine line between feeling, or what am I trying to say? So I think, okay, I'll go from kind of like my experience in some respect of reading. I think it's difficult to kind of know when you're being judgmental, and there's quite a lot of pressure, I think, as you said, in terms of women and what's expected of us, and whether they're too annoying, bossy, and whatever. I think it's different for everyone, but I think it's also quite universal of us to be so, I don't know,
Picky?
it is quite, we can be. I mean, I know I definitely can be, but I mean, we'll get into that later.
Yes.
Yes. I'll let you continue your train.
All right. Okay. So sometimes I feel there is a very fine line between a heroine or a hero acting like a complete bitch or a dick, as opposed to acting like a normal human being with flaws. So I think the most interesting characters to me are the ones who have flaws. That I kind of think, well, where do we draw this line, and how do we draw this line? And I think in a lot of respects, particularly about women, we tend to hold them to a higher standard or ideal. And I'm like, why do women have to be perfect? Like, what rule is there that women have to be perfect? And I think that's something that's prevalent in society as a whole, given, I don't want this to be like depressing or anything on this podcast, but we can go back a long time in history and see that, women have kind of been oppressed.
Well, yeah, quite a little bit.
Yes, just a little bit, no. And I think it comes across still in society where women are not seen as equal to men. I'm not saying everyone thinks that. There is still a massive disparity, and you don't really have to look far to kind of see it when we're bombarded by the media every day with images of perfect women and how we're supposed to look, be like these women, and we're supposed to look like them. And I'm like, why are we just accepting that this is the way that it should be? I mean, why are we dragging women down like that? Because if you don't conform to that, ideal, then you're kind of not looked on as, a perfect woman. People are like, oh well, that woman's a bitch, or she's, and there's this thing of where you're, a man being powerful and, saying what he wants and saying all these things is seen as, an alpha male, whereas a woman who did the same thing would be seen as bossy. And I'm like, there is such a massive, double standard there. It's like, why can't women be, we'll use the term alpha, why can't women also be alpha women? Why is it always the man? There is a lot of that. And I just think, why do we do this to other women? Especially, like, fiction is supposed to be an escape from reality. So why are we going, oh, this woman is not doing what I would do in this situation? I'm like, well, of course she isn't, because she's not you.
I totally see what you mean there. I really do. I think when I read, and I come across a heroine who kind of does things that I wouldn't do, it does throw me a bit, because I think if I'm to read a book, I want to find something within the heroine I can relate to. And I think if they do something which comes across as a bit like, oh, I would never do that, I immediately go, oh, I don't like how she's acted, and therefore that annoys me, and it will annoy me for a good, like, 3 chapters later, until like I don't know, until I calm down, until she redeems herself, until I accept that this is who she is. I don't know at what point that I start to chill out, but there has to be some kind of some way of me kind of accepting it, and I think I do, but sorry.
There's always those books where the author doesn't make the heroine relatable, and that can be an issue.
It's really, really, it's really disappointing to read books where that has happened.
Yes.
It's really painful as well, and it really frustrates and confuses me, to say the least. But
yes.
but no, I see what you mean. It's so difficult to not judge, from my perspective anyway, from my own personal opinion and experience of reading books. I'm very much like, she just annoyed the hell out of me. And I mean, the guy can act. See, now I'm gonna see now, because I'm gonna like derail and go for one about guys being like a certain way,
but we can talk about men too, because this is not about just women, us judging women. It's about just us judging characters as a whole, I think.
Right. So okay, I'll say this. If I'm reading a romance book, it's fine. I want an alpha guy. Okay.
Yes.
That's kind of like the strict law when it comes to romance books. You want a guy. Yeah. You want a guy who is dominant, but he treats the girl right, isn't a dickhead. You want someone who's going to be respectful, okay? But then you're not always going to get that guy, because he's got demons or whatever. He's got flaws. There's a very, very fine line between him acting like a complete and utter bully, completely disrespecting her as a person, and finding some kind of quality in him that you think, okay, this is acceptable behavior because he's gone through this in his past, but he could be kind to another. Probably very confusing what I'm saying. So
no, I understand. I think,
but
continue.
So I'd say, let's say we come across a heroine who is quite strong as a woman. She's quite, I want to say alpha. I want to say that she can hold her own in any situation. She doesn't take any shit from anyone. That makes her quite likable for me. because I want a heroine who can do those things, who is capable of being independent and hold her own in life. But I also quite enjoy the conflict between heroine and the hero, especially if the hero is quite difficult to deal with. So let's say he's quite closed off and she decides to, as others may perceive, to be quite of a bossy person because she pushes him, and that to others may come across as being quite naggy, or I don't know, quite repetitive and quite exhausting. But I think it's quite rewarding in some respect when it's done right, because he can either break out of his character and be like, okay, wow, you've put me in place, which is great, but otherwise it could just completely fail, and she's just come across as this really annoying woman who just won't take the hint. He's just really not interested, he'll never change, and she just persistently basically antagonizes him. And that's when, for me, I'm like, okay, you really have to kind of like say goodbye to this guy now, because he's just not changing, and it's just a vicious circle, and I can't read any more of this book. But that's the point where I'm going into like books that I just don't finish, and I don't want to go into that kind of discussion.
Well, I'm sure we could talk a lot about books like that, but we'll discuss that in a minute. We'll discuss actual examples of this in a minute, because I know that we both have them. I completely understand what you're saying. It's like, I know that this view can be, everyone is different, so our views are very subjective as to what makes a good heroine and what doesn't, or what's annoying and what isn't. And I know that characters can be annoying, and I have DNF'd many books because of that, for that reason. But I just kind of think, when does that line cross and we're becoming overly judgmental of that person, and that's a difficult thing to kind of put into words. But I'm not really saying we should suddenly go, oh, we're never going to judge anyone again. That's quite frankly not.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. Impossible. But I think maybe we should try and reevaluate the way that we look at women in fiction, because maybe we should stop holding women to such high standards if we're not going to do the same for men. I found a lot of the time I've read, because we both read quite dark books where where the guys can be absolute dickheads, let's just put it that way, but they do have redeeming qualities to them, so they're not like complete assholes. But there has been times where I've read a man and I'm like, what is this guy's problem? And then I kind of like go, well, why is this woman forgiving him for this? Why is that being brushed under the carpet? And sometimes, I've read books where the hero is completely irredeemable, of which we both have an example. And I'm thinking, what is this? Why is this attitude and behavior again? And then the author tries to redeem this hero, and I'm just like, I've reached a point where it's like, actually, no, you can't redeem them, because it's gone beyond my ability to forgive who they are as a character. And I just kind of think, is that me being judgmental? Failure on the author's part, or is it a failure on my part to understand that character? And that's kind of where I go, okay, well, I don't know if I'm being judgy, or maybe it's just my morals don't match up with this person's morals. What I'm kind of trying to say with this is that I judge the hero just as much as I do the heroine, I guess, And I just think we can't let them off because they're a man. Why are we letting this off? Because I've had discussions with people about heroes, and I'm like, there's a hero who has just behaved like a complete dick, but he's damaged, so it's okay, And I actually hate that attitude, to be quite honest. Like, I can understand if someone's damaged, but that doesn't mean that they can then therefore take it out on the person they're with. But that's not really okay. Yes, I've read heroes like that, but they've managed to redeem themselves. But then I'm like, I've had characters like that where they are a dick, or they have behaved like a dick, and then the heroine kind of takes them to task on this, and the reader kind of goes, well, why is she getting angry at him about that? He's damaged. I'm like, hold on, why are you judging the woman for taking issue with the guy being a dick? I'm like, you can't, And I'm like, what if the heroine has also got issues herself, and she could act irrationally? Why is the hero then let off for his behavior of being a dick, but the woman is therefore not let off
Do
by
you know
her
what?
behavior?
You have a real point.
Yeah, and it's like that's a double standard. I'm like, how is it okay for this guy who's behaved like a complete asshole, and then the woman's like does something irrational or stupid, and then you're like, oh, that woman's stupid. I'm like, what? Hold on, what? The guy is a dick, being a dick. Yeah. Oh, he's damaged, so it's okay, but he's also damaged, but it's not okay for her. I'm like, what? Where did this come from? Like, this is what I take issue to. Is we can't go about going, okay, well, that just because a man is damaged, it's okay for him to be a dick. But when the woman is damaged and she acts like a dick, oh no, that's not okay. I'm like, what planet is that okay on? Like, do you see what I mean?
I really do. I was literally about to say, have you ever read a book where the heroine has been completely moody and bitchy and just completely, just wrong in every way, and you have the hero, bless him, who's doing everything within his power to kind of help her see things differently, to change her, her outlook on life and love, and she's just treat him like a complete idiot. Have you ever read a book like that? Because I haven't, but I'm sure that if I had,
I don't think I have.
I think I'd go absolutely insane. Again, it's true to what you said, in that if ever a book like that existed, or if ever there are scenes where she's thrown a tantrum, and people judge her based on that, it's not fair. It's not fair at all, because a guy could treat her the same way and get away with it, and that's not fair.
No, and I've personally, as a writer myself, written scenes where the heroine has, we won't go into who these characters are, because we're not here to talk personally about our own books most of the time. But I've written scenes where the guys behave like a bit of a dick somewhat earlier in the, and because I write dark romance, that's kind of comes with the territory. And then the woman kind of loses her shit over stuff because she's put in this situation where she's been captured or taken, and I'm like, why is the woman judged for that? Like, shouldn't you be judging a guy for taking her in the first place? Like, what he kidnapped her, and yet she's the one who's now looked at as, oh, she's because not just my books, I've read other books like that, and I'm like, why is she then in the wrong? Because she's losing her shit over the fact that some guy has decided to kidnap her. Why is she then being seen as the I don't know, the anti-heroine, or someone who's in the wrong because she's lost her shit over a guy kidnapping her? I'm like, who is in the wrong? Who is actually in the wrong there? I think I would have to go with the man, because let's be real. A guy kidnaps a woman. That's not okay. Like, and I'm sure we've read books like these, and it's like, I've written them myself, and it's not like I think, oh, the guy is okay. And yes, he does end up redeeming himself. However, I kind of think, well, you can't, the original person who kidnapped you, he's still not okay. And I like to think that I never make my books say that it's okay that he kidnapped her, because it's not. And I would never advocate kidnapping.
Yeah, just make it a norm. That's it.
Yeah, it's a normal story. But you see what I mean? I'm like, how is this guy? How are you not getting annoyed at this guy who, kidnapped her? On occasion, some of these guys do things like sexually assault these women, and and then like, oh, but this woman is done, and I'm like, what? Whoa, like, whoa, why are you getting at the woman? She's the one who's been put in this horrible situation. Why would she be not acting irrationally?
Yeah,
like,
but then isn't that just readers? Isn't that just their opinion? Isn't every reader different? It
is their opinion.
Yeah, it's so difficult.
It is difficult. But
that's why I say
it is a difficult thing. So I'm not saying everyone shouldn't be judgmental, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't do these things, because I think we are going to do them anyway. I just think maybe we should kind of cut women some slack, maybe a little bit more slack when it comes to fiction and in real life. I think we need to kind of, not be so
I'll be honest, I think in real life people are less likely to be more judgmental than actually picking up a book and diving into a world. I think for them, I don't know, this is just my opinion. I think in real life people are like, oh, I won't judge, don't worry, you can tell me what happened to you, or like you can tell me about this, your past or whatever. And it's true, not everyone's going to be judgmental based on real life experiences, but for some reason when it comes to reading a book, when it comes to picking up a book and shutting everything else out and just diving into this world where there are these two characters and these two personalities, it's just easy. It's just the first thing that we do. We immediately, based on like the first page of a book, we immediately probably assess someone the same way we would assess them if you were to see them for the first time. And we're expected to go on this journey with these characters. And I think, I don't know what it is, but we just tend to continue reading and be like, maybe because we're so engrossed, maybe because we are so invested in these characters, that the minute that they just do something that just completely angers us, it kind of like just unleashes this hell of judgment. And I think definitely for me, I will say I'll probably take a step back and be a bit more aware of whether I'm being a bit over the top in terms of my reactions to things, or whether I need to look deeper into these characters and see if there's, and just kind of like, I think what I'm trying to say is not be so judgy.
Wow.
I think is what I'm trying to say to myself. But again, it's so,
I think it's partly to do with not accepting that perhaps your favorite characters do have flaws, because we want them to be these perfect people, but they're not. And I think that actually I find books where the characters aren't perfect people and they do, not saying doing stupid things makes me go, oh, it's okay, but they will do things that you will sometimes think, what the actual fuck are you doing? But then it doesn't make me go, I don't always immediately go, I don't want to read this character, so annoying because they did this. I'm kind of now going, oh, well, they're just, given the situation, they're kind of reacting to what they're being faced with in a way that's not necessarily how I would react, but maybe given who they are as a character, you can understand why they would react to that. And I think that maybe if the author hasn't shown you enough of that character so that you can understand it, that's, I think, maybe when we run into these situations where we're like, you're annoying, or maybe I'm not putting this specifically on authors saying that they're the problem. I'm saying that we're all the problem, if you know what I mean. I'm not blaming anyone for it being, because everyone interprets them differently, but I think we've got to kind of think, well, has the author done enough to make me like this character, or make me see why they react that way, maybe? Or I don't know, I'm not trying to place blame on anyone. That's what I'm trying to say, I guess. Am I even making any sense?
You are making sense.
Okay,
you are. So I can say, as an example, I read a book recently, a romance book, and because I read romance books.
We both do, and this podcast is about romance.
Yeah, so obviously. So I read a romance book recently, and it's part of a series, but without going into too much detail, it's a fantasy romance, and I genuinely dived in because it had gotten so many good reviews. So I thought, oh, you know what, I'll give this a shot. So I dived in, and I really started to the first chapter, well, we're following, to be honest. Oh wait, hold on. Yeah. So the whole book is based in her point of view. So we're in her head. And I always think that's a bit difficult at times because we only ever get her side. We don't get his side. We don't see, the hero's perspective and his deep inner thoughts.
Yeah.
So I was reading this book, and I have to be honest and say she annoyed the hell out of me. She annoyed me to the point where I had to pause. I had to put this book down several times and hope that it would get better, because from my perspective, she came across as this person who's quite desperate to solve this mystery of a relative's death. She goes to another country, and it turns out that she has this ability to kind of see this other world within our world, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now here comes the hero. He's everything you would expect him to be, appearance wise, incredibly handsome, just drop dead gorgeous, you know, beautiful eyes, the jawline, you know,
Yeah.
the chiseled body, like all of that. And we can immediately see that the heroine's just completely attracted to him. Great. What's not so great is she came across at this point from being kind of independent to then completely solely relying on him. And he was very cold, like incredibly cold to her. I would say to the point of where there was no ounce of affection from him whatsoever. And it even got to a point where I was screaming at her, being like, do you know what? Do you really need this guy to kind of help your abilities throughout this world? Literally, I I can understand she's afraid because this is all new to her and he seems to have the answers. But I was rooting for her at one point to just get a pillow and like cover his head and just say goodnight, because I he was that infuriating for me. It just got to a point where I wanted the heroine to leave. I wanted her to just like find her way, and literally, oh, let me just quickly add, there was another male character who came into play, and he's kind of like this, he's the enemy. I don't know, he's the enemy. Even at one point I was actually rooting for her to leave the hero and go to the enemy just to be rid of this ridiculous relationship, because it wasn't even, I don't know, listen, it gets to a point and I was just growing more and more frustrated with her because she just came across as so annoying and clingy, and he treated her that way. And there was just random points of this story where she blatantly had affection for him. God knows why. Okay, it's over my head, but she really did like him. But there was no there was no chemistry. There was nothing there, and even at the end, I understand it's a series, but I don't even know if I want to touch the second book at this point because we don't know anything about him. In this first book, we know nothing about his background. He is just a mystery. He is a conundrum. He's just this. He is just a I don't know what he is. I can't even tell you. But it was difficult for me, and I don't. I judged both of them. I really did. I didn't like him. I judged him based on how he treated her. Yet in her eyes, because I don't see his point of view, it seemed okay, and I just don't like that. I didn't like it, and this is just a pure example of me completely. And this is what I mean. It's an example of me being in someone else's mind, and I felt like I was the angel on her shoulder, but she's not listening to me because I was saying don't do this and don't do that and don't take that. Like he's bullying you, he's being mean to you. So why are you kind of like still looking at him with these love starred eyes and all this shit? It was just so frustrating for me. And I can't, I really cannot. And I judged both of them. And I, to this, you can even tell that it still bothers me because
Yeah.
it's still with me. And I'm just like, I can't. I don't know. I
You're
can't.
just like, God damn those
I
blasted.
don't un-
But then,
I don't
but
understand. I don't
yeah.
understand how this book has gotten amazing reviews.
Hmm.
And then I don't know if it's me. I don't know if I'm the one who's seeing something that's not there or not giving it a chance. But I'll be honest, Sarah, in in any book, whether it's a standalone, whether it's a first in a series,
Mhm.
you have to have the background. You have to have some kind of something to do with these characters that makes a reader go, okay, you're a dick, but I can understand why you're a dick. you know,
Yes.
not just be a dick and then be no reason for it, because why would I then put up with you? Why would I invest in your relationship? It doesn't make any sense to me. It's incredibly frustrating, and it's that point where I just think I don't want to pick up. I don't want to pick up the second book. I don't want to continue reading this book, because for me it doesn't get better, it only gets worse. I think if you throw in something at the end of the book that completely flips the script and makes me go, oh shit, like all of that shit that I went through in this like 90% of the book suddenly makes sense to me because they flipped the script at the end, I'll be impressed. And I think I've only come across one book that has actually managed to do that for me. And it's completely made me go, do you know what? I have respect for the author, because it makes sense now. And it also, I will say, is an effective way of making you pick up the second book. So, but but listen, this book that I read was not that. It was not that at all. And
I understand.
I don't know if this example was a good one based on our discussion. I have to say,
I think. Well, go on.
I have to say, I was judgmental. I was
You were
judgmental
judgmental.
completely.
But you are judgmental equally on the man and the. So we can say that's okay because you're not. Do you have any double standards? I think that's the kind of thing is just that, you know, you've just proven that you can be judgmental of both the man and the woman, and I think that that's kind of my point, is that we should be judging them both equally for their behaviour.
I'm sorry, I just feel like I need to get that off of you. Just there.
I completely understand. Okay, I actually have an example of where I've, you know, quite heavily judged a woman. However, I think that it's justified.
Oh gosh.
So I'm going to talk about this. We're not going to name names on this podcast because we don't want to be seen to be dragging authors down, because we're really not. These are just personal opinions. So I was reading this contemporary romance series where the books are all, you know, connected standalones.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really excited about this. I actually think that another book has been I can't remember which number this was, but I was really excited about this book because it was a forbidden romance, and we all know that if you know me, then you'll know that I am absolutely obsessed with forbidden romances. And I'm kind of also obsessed with age gap romances as well. It's become a new thing where I'm like, literally, if there's an age gap, I'm just like, yes, I'm downloading this book. Anyway, so I was really excited about this book. And there was also a prequel to this book. And I read this and I was like, oh, this is really hot. I really like this. So essentially, the premise of the story is that the guy is older than the girl. See, I think she was like she was about 20 or something, and he was in his 30s, late 30s. I can't remember the exact age gap, to be quite honest. I'd rather not even try and remember it, since this book annoyed the crap out of me. And he was her uncle's best friend and business partner, and they ended up sleeping together like once when I think she was like 19 at the time, and then we see, or 18 or 19, and we see them 2 years later, and then they get back into this kind of relationship with each other. And you know, I enjoyed that. It was really good. But then the heroine just was the most annoying heroine ever, because she was so childish, to the point where I got to the point where I was like, why does this? And then, I think what was worse, the reason that it annoyed me so much that she was so childish is because everyone kept saying how mature she was, and I'm like, you're not mature. She didn't want to tell her uncle that they were seeing each other because she thought that he would then see, because her uncle is the only person who believes in her. Okay. This is the genuine reason. And she didn't want him to see. And when she got with his best friend and they fell in love, although why the fuck they fell in love, I have no idea. Because it all seemed to be based on sex. Anyway. When she didn't want to tell her uncle because he would no longer believe in her and see her as one of these, you know, airhead girls who's just there for sex. And I was like, what the fuck kind of reason is this for? Like, genuinely, I was sitting there going, why? That is a dumb excuse for starters. I was like, what? And that is the entire premise of why she didn't want to tell her. And then the uncle, oh God, don't even ask me. Drama in this book was so stupid to the point where I actually just wanted to throw the book at the wall. Although as I read on my phone, I can't because I don't want to trash my phone. And I was just like, why? And she was so annoying and she just acted like a child. And I just got to the point where I was like, I don't understand why this guy even likes you, because you behave. He's in his 30s. He's almost 40. Why would he be accepting that this girl didn't want to tell his best friend when he was in love with her? Why would you, as a man at that age, would he really be accepting that type of behavior? I don't think so.
No.
I was like, no. And that's what made me, originally I liked him, but that annoyed me because he had quite good solid growth as a character. Going from a womanizer to falling in love and wanting to be one woman. And that was really good. But it ruined it because he liked this heroine who was dumb as fuck. I like to recall her as a too stupid to live heroine, a TSTL heroine.
Wow.
And I was just like, this ruined the book. And I was so angry because I was really looking forward to this book. I was really looking forward to these characters. And the prequel is really, really good. And then this was just awful to the point where I was like, I want to shoot this girl for being dumb. And I don't ever want to read it. And it ruined the series. It kind of actually ruined most of the series for me. And I don't even want to read the last book because of who she's put the uncle with. I was not happy because I also didn't like the character. I don't like the character who she's going to put the uncle with. So I was like, I'm not reading anymore.
Wow.
I don't think it's out yet. But like I said, I'm not immune to judging women. But I think that my reasoning for judging this book was completely justified after having to be put through this. And this was the longest book in the series as well. This sheer drama to the point where I don't know why I finished reading it because I just wanted it to be done, and I was just not happy. I was really not happy because I just thought, I've invested all this time into the series and then you've just gone ahead and destroyed it with one book.
Was this book done in a dual point of view?
Yes.
So do you not at one point see from his perspective why he...
Oh, yes. But I don't... But that was the thing. All it seemed to be was about, because they had a kind of like a bit of a kinky... He was a bit kinky. And obviously we love to read kinky sex.
Yeah, of course.
And she completely was accepting of this, blah, blah, blah. And but I just didn't see it. There was no real connection other than sex between the characters, and the author failed to show any real connection other than sex. I couldn't then therefore understand why he would want a relationship with, or it seemed to be one of those times where it was you must have heard the magic pussy syndrome, where the pussy is so good that the guy can't just leave it alone.
I haven't.
No? Oh my God. Okay. Well, this is what pussy is. And I have read books like this where the guy is like a massive womanizer, and then suddenly he meets this girl and she's got such a great pussy that he just cannot see himself fucking anyone else.
Well,
yes. That's what I call the magic pussy syndrome. And I even make a joke about this in one of my books.
Well, I mean, I know there's dickmatizing.
Oh, yes.
Dickmatizing. But never that one.
Okay. Well, it is. I don't know if it's a thing, but it's my thing. Yes, dickmatizing. Okay. This is really funny. Sab made up this word not long after we met, and I just was laughing the minute I heard it. It's essentially hypnotized by dick, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure that this is a thing.
It is a thing.
I'm pretty sure this is a thing. I'm pretty sure that word is...
It should be a thing if it's not.
It's there. It exists. It has to. The words exist for everything. Everything.
And I even got your permission to use this word in one of my new books. Listen. You were really excited when you saw that.
I was so happy. I was like, wow. Ticket.
Or I think there should be a word. A magic pussy dickmatizing.
Are you sure that this isn't a thing? Like an actual word in
I
Urban
think
Dictionary?
they deserve definitions in the dictionary. I really do.
Let me see. I'm going to Google it, you know.
Going slightly off topic here, but to me, this was a book where it was like the pussy was so good that he couldn't leave it alone. Like, well, if that's the only reason you want to be with a woman, then wow, like what? Yeah. So I did. I can say that I probably didn't judge him as much as her because she was more annoying, but I did end up judging him because I don't understand why you like this girl. So I was like, well, you clearly have some character flaws. The only reason you want to be with this woman is because I just think that sometimes authors sacrifice plot or character development or building a relationship for kinky sex, and that's not okay with me. And I love kinky sex. Let's just put it out there. The kinkier the better, although there are some things that I really can't read. I want there to be a romantic relationship that makes sense on top of all the hot sex.
But I mean, that is law.
Yeah.
When you write a romance book, I'm really sorry. It's law. You have to have romance. If there's no this is why I got so angry reading the book that I last did. Where was the romance? How could this fall into a romantic fantasy book and there be no romance? There was just pure and utter hatred to, like, from I don't know. Anyway,
well,
let me just quickly add something real quick.
Yeah.
I'm on the Urban Dictionary, and magic pussy is a thing.
It is? Oh, good.
It is. It actually says here, it says pussy so enchanting that a man can't think about anything or about any other woman. Yeah.
See? A magic pussy is a thing.
They've abbreviated it to MP. So there's that, and then there's stigmatized. So these are real words, and I'm sure in my life I've heard this word somewhere, which is why it was suddenly pulled out of my hat.
Probably. Yes.
But there you have it. That I'll just throw that in there.
So they're real things. So you heard it here first. No, I'm joking. So okay. So now I think on your point that there has to be romance in books, are we going to dive into the book that we both absolutely despise with a passion because there was no romance in this book. 2, we thoroughly judged most of the characters in this book, I would say. And 3, we despise it. This book made me want to throw. Actually, didn't I say to you after I finished reading this book that I wish I'd bought the paperback just so I could burn it?
You really did, yeah.
Yes.
That's a huge thing. I've run out of tea. This is going to be a problem for me, okay? Because I actually made a very tall. I got a cup, which is my tallest mug. I had a tall mug of tea, and it's finished now. And I specifically made it just to talk about this book because it. Okay, I just want to add to our listeners, if we still have listeners after this
epic rant that is about to occur.
I have massive respect for this author, like huge respect for this author. I love her books, and she's just phenomenal in the world that she creates when she writes. However, this book, I don't know what happened to her. I don't know what kind of trauma or life problem she was experiencing when writing this book, but it was as if she hadn't written this book. I felt like maybe a pet had gotten hold of her laptop and written this book, because it just did not feel like her at all.
No, I would completely agree, and I'm of the same mind. I really respect this author. However, as we both know, this book made me not want to read anything else by her for a very long time, for over a year.
Yeah.
It's been over a year since we've read this book, and it's taken me that long to kind of forget that this book exists, although now I'm beginning to remember how much I hated this book. But I didn't read anything by her, and I got really annoyed, and I was like, I'm done. I can't, because there was so much like love for this book, and like and like fangirl love to the point where I was like, did we read the same thing?
Yeah.
And I think the thing that we both hated the most about this book is because it destroyed the previous two books in a way that I found unforgivable.
Yeah, no, I have to say, the previous two books were out of this world. I've never cried reading a book before, but I cried as if I had lost someone dear to me. And I devoured both books, I think in 6 hours. And cannot let's bear in mind that the books go live at midnight. I've read these books like from midnight until 6 a.m. on a weekday, okay? Then I've gotten up to go to work. So I still have huge love for the first two books in this trilogy of sorts. So there was a lot of expectation, there was a lot of hope, there was a lot of hype for this book.
Yes.
And I read it before Sarah did, and I said nothing to her about it because I didn't want to spoil anything. I avoided social media so that nothing would be spoilt for me. And
Oh God, this
it
book.
was okay. So he was a complete and utter dickhead, right? So he was a complete and utter dickhead, and he's gone through things in his past, a death. Okay, gone through death. He's lost somebody that he really loves, his dad, and because of that, and I think, okay, so let's see what I can say. I think I can say a bit more. As a kid, he witnessed his dad's health deteriorate, and he saw the kind of struggle that his parents went through during this time up until his dad passed away.
Yeah.
And because of this, he has this whole it stayed with him that death is just this thing it's unavoidable. Death happens, it's inevitable, but it stopped him from connecting with anyone, from opening up. He's very, very closed off. Like, when I mean closed off, I mean he's like a rock. Like, he's got zero kind of emotions, even towards his own mother. That's my opinion. I don't know, Sarah, if you felt the same way there.
I agree entirely.
But I mean, it was painful for me because the first two books were heavily about his parents. And for me to go into this book and see that this kid has grown up and is treating his mum so cold, it really hurt me because she doesn't deserve that. After everything she's been through, she was the least deserving of that kind of treatment, and she did try her hardest with him, you know. He's a very closed off person. They live in the country, so he's very much like their whole lifestyle is based on just the quiet life and routine of farm life. And then he met this girl when he was a teenager, I think.
Yeah.
He met this girl. She, similarly to him, actually has experienced losing her mother, who actually killed herself. Did her mum kill herself?
I can't remember.
I think her mum killed herself. So you've got these two characters who have experienced losing someone very dear to them in different ways.
Yeah.
So his dad passed away because that was unavoidable. Health was deteriorating. He was going to die. They had to prepare for that. Whereas her mother died because she killed herself. It was unexpected. It wasn't a thing to kind of, you would never think that would happen to anyone. It just happened. But despite this, the heroine is a very happy person. Like, she's very curious about, she just asks loads of questions. She's not afraid of knowledge. And I enjoyed that about her. She immediately took a liking to the hero. But again, he's just from the get-go very, very cold, very much like, I don't want anything to do with you, stay away from me. So I don't quite understand why, even at that point, she was very persistent in wanting his friendship when all he ever did was push her further and further away, to the point where she writes to him as she's growing up. So she's from a kid to a teenager and then an adult. She's been writing to him. Not once has he responded to her messages or letters or whatever. He just has zero interest in her. And even to a point where she does, for whatever reason, I can't remember now, comes back into his life and they're forced together. Again, it's the same thing. It just seems to be like for me, she never really grew up. Even though she's an adult, she's still very much like, I'm going to do everything to get his attention, and he's going to like me, and he's going to open up to me, and he's going to be warm to me. But it never happened. I was just so confused by it all. I was just like, why are you being such a dick? Like, the hero was being, I could never ever have patience and give my time to somebody like that. It was very frustrating for me to read this, especially when his mum persistently trying to say to him, she's a nice girl, you should give her a chance, you should do this, like mums do, try and push two people together, because mums know best, right? They see stuff, like they have superpowers, they know what's best for their kids. And it broke my heart to see him just pull away even more. Both of these women in his life, his mother, who's done everything, goes above and beyond, and only just wants a bloody hug from him. And he doesn't even give her that. Like, he just doesn't want any kind of attachment to anyone aside from bloody farm animal. And then you've got the heroine, who is so desperate to give him her love over and over and over, and he just I don't know, it just baffles me. It baffles me because there was no romance in this book. Like, can I just say, it's a big book, big fucking book, okay? And there was no romance in this book. No romance, no chemistry, no flirting. There was nothing but her chasing after him and him pushing her away. There was nothing. And as we get, closer to the end, the author just took a turn, like, for the worst. For the worst. The mother dies in the most tragic way. Tragic. Like,
oh
God, I would never.
No,
I can't.
I can't.
I don't understand. I don't understand how the author could create two phenomenal, groundbreaking books that have made hundreds of people cry and just completely adore, to then create a book where not only did she not only did she just take the characters from the two books and just destroy their hearts, but a tragic death, not just one death but another, like the death of the characters that we've loved, the tragic deaths. I don't think I'm just so, it's so painful. I don't know what the author was thinking. I don't know why this was okay. I don't know why this was so based on death. It was really it was a lot. I don't know why the author did this and why it was okay and how she expected us to continue through that, especially when you would think that a death in a book would make a main character turn their ways around, like they would change their outlook on life and be like, you know what, from now on I'm going to do things differently, I'm going to appreciate life a bit more, I'm going to have no regrets, I'm going to profess my love for this person, I'm going to live my life the way that my mum wanted me to, or my dad wanted me to, or my brother wanted me, whatever. But no, the hero just spiraled out of control to the point where he left the country. He went into some next, like, Timbuktu jungle, okay? He went to the ends of the earth
to get away from everything.
He went somewhere to the, okay, let me tell you where he went. No one knows where he went, because apparently this place that he went is unfindable. Like, you can take a boat there, but there's a village, then they take you in a rowboat But then even the person who's rowing the boat says, I'm sorry, I can't go any further because if I do, then we'll get lost. So the heroine decides to go there and find him.
God,
because...
oh God, don't. This scene. Say, this. I swear to God, that was the stupidest thing in the world. She goes and finds him, and then they end up like, that's when they end up having sex. Yes, that is.
Guys, we're talking like, what was this? 80%? 90%?
Oh no, this was like 90%.
This was like 90% of a massive.
And even when they have sex, it's not even. He doesn't. It's not even. He's not even nice to her. Like he's absolute. And I was like, why do you want to have sex with a man when he's been a dick to you for? Okay, let me just point this out. He has been a dick to this girl for 11 years. 11 years of their life has gone by, and he's never once been a nice guy to this girl. And they end up having sex, and I was just like, this is it's not even romantic. I'm sorry, I'm going to take over from here because the ending of this book made me so angry to the point where I was so angry. Okay, so then that happens, and then he leaves her. After that, he fucks off. Sorry. Goes back to this life, and then she comes, and by this time she's like, I'm done now. Oh no, she's not quite done yet. So she goes back to the farm where he's gone back to, and then begs him, basically.
Yeah!
Begs him to love her.
I remember.
And he's like, no. And I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah.
She begs him. And then she's like, and then when he says no, she's like, I'm done now. I'm done. And I was like, thank fuck. Now you can just leave this asshole guy forever. But no, guess with this. Oh God. This is the bit that makes me the most angry out of the entire book. It's the last, like, what was it? Maybe 5% I don't even. So she goes off and then is involved in a car accident, isn't she? Yeah.
Yeah.
She goes. So she's in the hospital, and he gets rung up and told that she's in. So he runs. I don't know why. I don't even remember why he runs off to the hospital. Fucking knows. So he goes to the hospital, and then he accidentally gets told. I'm sorry for the spoilers to this book. We haven't named this book, but probably might be able to work out what it is. He gets told by accident that she's died. Okay. Oh, Jesus Christ. And then he breaks down and goes absolutely batshit crazy, and he ends up having to be sedated. Doesn't he?
Yeah, he got to the extremity. Like, the fuck?
And then it's like he's completely broken. Like, I don't even know why that broke. Okay, let's just point this out. His mum's death didn't break him, but apparently this girl's death broke him. Even though he doesn't like this girl, has been mean to her for 11 years. And when she begged him to love her, he was like, no. But no. Because he thinks that she's dead, he breaks down, and they have to sedate him. When he wakes up, we're really sorry, but she's actually alive. Suddenly, he then has an epiphany, and he's like, actually, I love her. And I was like, you have put me through hell for like 90% of this book, or 95% of this book, I should say, probably. And yet, this fake death is what suddenly turns him. And by this point, she's like, I'm done with you. Like, please stay.
Like, she fully didn't want anything to do with him. Even when
I think we were congratulating her for.
Because it was the first time she'd actually shown she had a backbone. And she was like, you know what? I'm fucking done with you. Like, it's not enough. And I was really happy. Like, I was like, you know what? Yes, good for you.
Good for you.
Leave him. Walk away.
And then, of course, he has this. He goes to her, and she's like, I'm not interested. I think he ends up taking her back to the farm, and then he basically she doesn't want anything to do, but he insists on. He basically gets to the point where he emotionally manipulates her into sleeping with him again, which really made me angry. And then the worst part of all is her dad comes to see her, doesn't he? And then he proposes to her in front of her dad. And she basically is made to feel like she can't say no. And I literally wanted to strangle everyone in that. Everyone at this point. I was like, are you for real? Are you for real? So she says yes. And then suddenly, because of all of this he's suddenly completely changed as a character at this point, and there's now this
Yeah.
doting man who can't, you know, blah blah blah. And I was just like, I sat there going this, and then the whole entire fucking, I don't know, wasn't there like 2 epilogues as well, which also really made me angry because I was like,
I don't know.
why is there 2 epilogues? You only need 1 fucking epilogue. In fact, this book didn't even need an epilogue. It was too long in the first place. Okay, and then there's this like letter from his mum, which basically said, "I knew that you were going to end up with hope." I was just like, what the fuck? Like, I hated it. I absolutely hated it, and I hated the fact that he suddenly changed, because at no point during this book did she, the author, once make him remotely likable.
Yeah.
At no point did she make him redeemable. So by the time he had this epiphany,
Yeah,
it was
too late.
I don't care.
It was too late. I felt that ending was so rushed and ridiculous. It was so ridiculous. I don't know what
it was, because it was like, where was the romance to justify? There wasn't any. Not even when they had sex at all was there ever any romance. Yeah. I was like, and how can you be suddenly gone from I hate you 2 hours ago to I want to marry you? Like, the fuck? I'm sorry.
Very. It was the most confusing book I've ever read. And it was a huge
it was a huge disappointment and letdown.
Yeah.
I hated it.
And I'll be honest, I didn't give up on the author after that, not like Sarah, who still has not touched any of her books. But like it made me lose trust in the author completely. And even when the author has released like a few books since then, I haven't touched them because I feel like my trust and everything I had for her got stumped, set on fire and all kinds of stuff. But no, so yeah, that was that book. So it was just now I think it's fair to say for that book we judged both of them fairly.
Yeah.
I mean, I know. Oh God, I think I did.
Probably judged him way more harshly than her. Say, I think that was because he was such a dickhead. Like, he was like the biggest. I have not read a character. I've read a lot of like guys, you know, where I thought this guy's a dick, but never have I felt like this is the most irredeemable character in the world and I will never like him. And like every time I thought, oh, the author's gonna, you know, redeem him now. No.
Yeah.
And I was so upset because it was such a long fucking book.
Yeah, and I wanted there to be redeeming scenes. And there were opportunities. It's not like there was a lot of things. It's not like it was a difficult book, okay? Guys, this book was literally, it was mainly set in one place. And it was just like, there were no supporting characters to make it confusing anyway, to make it a bit overwhelming. There was no action, so there was nothing crazy going on.
No.
There were loads of opportunity for there to be scenes between the two characters, and where, you know, our heart would melt and he would just open up a bit more. He would thaw out, you know, just be kind to her, just do something that made us go, oh my, he's really starting to like her. There was none of that. There was none of that whatsoever.
No, it was just the same argument over and over again, and it was so repetitive and boring. It was fucking boring. Like, it was so boring to the point where I was like, what am I even reading? Like, I was bored of listening to them argue over the same fucking thing again and again. I can't deal with this any longer. I don't even know how I finished the book. I actually don't know why I finished the book. I guess I just wanted to know if she actually ended up redeeming him. And when she did, it was the most disappointing and thing that made me the most angry. And I think that's why I ended up going, I just cannot have anything else to do with this author. But now, okay, I am going to read her latest series. It's all come out because
Yeah, I mean,
Only because Sab's read the first book and she said, you have to read this. And I was like, okay, I'm good. But also, that is a dark romance and it's not the same thing. And I trust her to write dark romances. And also, I know that these books are slightly actually shorter than the books that she normally writes. So I'm like, okay, I can kind of be a bit more trusting, because the long books do drag on me. Like, I'll be honest, I'm not saying I don't like reading long books, but some books are so long that you're just like, oh, really? You know, some of this stuff could be cut out and still been a good book, you know. So but
I think also that's where the author probably went wrong, that this wasn't her, she wasn't in her natural element.
Yes.
And therefore she just, I think she's very much a dark romance writer, and that is what she lives and breathes it, and
that's
magic.
What she excels in, and writing, you know, guys, and but they also are redeemable, whereas this was just like not redeemable.
It's so ironic because this book, it's very ironic because the dark romances she's written, a lot of dark shit happens in this book.
Yes.
In those books, and you would think that there wouldn't be an ounce of, you would think that there wouldn't be anything likable about these men because of the world that they're in, and because of the shit that happens. But they're so redeemable. They're really likable. You kind of get into their heads. You can't. There's reasons as to why they like it. It's not difficult to see and be like, okay, I understand. It's so hard for me to explain.
It's like you understand. It's not like you think it's okay for behave like that, but you can understand why. And that's I think the key to writing a good anti-hero is I think sometimes I find that authors fail in writing anti-heroes. They make out like the hero's behavior is acceptable because of this, and it's like, well, it's not acceptable, but I think it's understandable, but it's not acceptable. Whereas, you know, that's okay for me, and I can kind of go, okay, that I can get on board with this. But where it's like, oh, it's okay because he's damaged, like I've said before, no, it's not okay. Like, you know, there has to be some kind of redeeming, and there has to be some kind of remorse for their behavior. I think that's the other thing.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the most important things, is that the hero recognizes that what they've done isn't okay, and when they don't do that, that annoys me. And I've read books like that where they don't, and I'm just like, oh. See, I judge both of it. See, I judge both the hero and the heroine, you know, but I'm not. But we're not. I don't say that I'm the perfect person who doesn't judge, because I do. That's not what this podcast episode is about.
No, I think this whole episode has solely been based on both of us kind of expressing kind of our own experiences and what we do as readers, but also to kind of just be like, there has to be some balance, and there has to be an awareness, and not to be so hard on the heroines for their life choices and their behavior. It's just wow.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we're saying, really, is that maybe we should just, if you're going to judge, then judge both of them fairly. That's what I say.
I agree. I do agree.
I agree. Well, there we go then. But it's true. Like, I just think, just be as judgmental about the guys you are. It's not that hard to do. And it's is it that hard? I don't think it is.
No, as I say, I think it not only depends on the reader, but also it depends on the characters and what we witness, and kind of, you know, what we see. I think I was going to ask, like, before, do you find that your judgment relies solely based on whether it's dual point of views or his point of view only? So, like, if you read a book and it's just the whole book's in her point of view, are you still likely to be more judgmental to the heroine than the hero, or, you know, in comparison to a dual?
I don't tend to read many single point of view because I don't like them. That's sounds terrible. These days, in romance, I actually hate it when there is not two points of view in a book.
Yeah.
When it's romance, it's not the same case when I'm reading something like fantasy, because I just or like urban fantasy, because I read a lot of fantasy as well. I don't mind it then, because that's not specifically romance. But I think when I have read romances where it has, and there's probably been very few, I think I do tend to judge the heroine more because she's the only person I can see.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you can't actually see what's going on inside the other person's head, it's really hard to make a judgment on them unless the author has done a good job of showing you from the other person's point of view. But then I think it's very difficult to see those things. And also when you only have a single point of view, we have to remember when we're in first person. When I read a lot of first person, that you are reading from a very unreliable narrator. At the end of the day, you're seeing it from their point of view and not the other person. I think that's kind of where maybe some judgment comes into it play, because you cannot, maybe I don't know. Does that even make sense?
No, it does, because that book that I ranted on about, that was first person, her point of view, and but even then, like, despite everything that she goes through with this hero, I don't even want to.
You don't want to call him a hero.
He's not likable. Like that, he just. But even like she had a lot of dislike towards him, so it was almost as if they hated each other throughout this book. But there were just little moments where he would look at her with desire, but then there would be no action towards it. There would be no chemistry between them. It was just as if they were two people who hated each other, who were thrown together and forced to kind of interact. She was forced to basically rely on him, knowing that he was this cold-hearted bastard. And from her point of view, he is this. But because I'm reading it in her point of view, I'm also seeing that he's a cold-hearted bastard. But I'm not romanticizing it the way that she is. I'm not like, oh yeah, maybe he can be kind, even though he like kissed her on the head when she was like losing consciousness at that point. That gives me nothing. You just treated her like complete shit throughout the whole book, and then you just kiss her on the forehead at the end of the book. And I'm a bit like, I'm sorry, but this isn't enough for me. All I can think of is I would give I would give a limb to know what he is, like what he was thinking. I craved his, because if I could have dived into his point of view and actually seen the reason behind him towards her every day, like maybe he, like for example, okay, in my head, if I had his point of view, I would have liked to have seen him like be really horrible to her, but then when she's left the room, do something that redeems it. So like maybe he's made her like a cup of tea or something stupid like that, but done something that she hasn't realized, because we've seen her point of view, and from her point of view he's been a dick, but from his point of view he's actually doing things without her realizing, that shows that he likes her, and that it's just a mask that he wears. But that's what I mean. I need to see that kind of relationship. I need to see it. I need to see the mark. But it's really hard for you to see that if you're just reading a first person point of view and it's her point of view. I haven't read a book where it's just a first person PV and it's the hero. I would love to read a book where it's, well, honestly, I would love that. I want to read a romance book where it's just his point of view. I want to be,
God.
yeah, I want to see like
I
how
have read one like that.
Is it not good? Like,
I DNF'd the book because I couldn't take it.
Whoa!
I told you about this book actually. It was this book that was about a priest. And
Oh,
yeah, do you remember? And I DNF'd it because I just could not stand. He was so whiny. He was so fucking whiny and
Oh
annoying.
my goodness.
And and the thing is also, this was written by a woman, and I was like, oh,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So I was going to ask that. I didn't want to. I didn't want to be like rude or anything, but I was going to be like, was it written by a woman?
Yeah.
But you just said it was written by a woman,
It
and
was.
that surprised me.
Oh God! It wasn't just because he was whiny. There was the priest thing as well that just I was bothered by the representation of it, and you know, I just can. And I know this is a very popular book as well, and lots of people liked it, but I just did not like him. I was like, I can't see her point of view, and this is annoying because yeah.
Okay.
It made me annoyed because he was so annoyed. He was just an annoying character. He was just really like overly whiny and angsty to the point where I just wanted to like smash his face in and tell him to man up. And I don't normally tell people to man up because I don't really agree with that term. But I was just like, dude,
just grow a pair.
I was like, grow some balls, man. I was like, why is he? Stop being a woman. Like, and that was the thing. I was like, but I know this is written by a woman. And I know that sounds terrible and I shouldn't say things. Oh my God. I just was so annoyed by this character. And I just thought, if it had been written. But then again, I have not read very many romances written by men. I think the romance world is dominated by female authors. And I think that's why it comes as a surprise to me that so many authors write these stupid heroines. Because I'm like, there's another thing. It's just like, why are you writing a so dumb? Where some people to like throw your book away and never read you again. And I'm just like, why aren't you writing these? I'm not saying all heroines have to be badasses and really, that's not what I want. I don't want badass heroines in every single book because those become like really boring. But then I don't want to. Just don't want her to be stupid. Like, I don't mind if someone makes a dumb decision or a stupid decision, like what, but if they're consistently stupid throughout the entire book, then it's just like, does this heroine have any brains? Why haven't you given her a brain? Why have you made her an airhead? Like, why is that? Do men find airheads attractive to bang them? I don't. Why is it a romance if the guy just wants sex? Like, that's not a romance. That's like borderline. If you want to write something like that, write erotica, or because that's people just banging with some story to them. I know that not all erotica is like that, but some erotica has happy endings. But I'm saying, if you just want to write a bunch of sex scenes where the guy's just interested in banging this woman and there's no emotional development, how can you call that romance? Is that not erotica or women's fiction? It's just like, or chick lit. I'm just like, it's not. It's not actually not chick lit, because chick lit doesn't tend to have open door sex scenes, or they're not very I should say. But yeah, it's like, you can't. Why is this now romance? It's like, I understand that sex sells, right? But when it's just the sex and there's no character development, there's no reason for these two characters to be with each other other than I want to have sex with you. I'm like, that's okay in the beginning, but where is the development of these characters, and why haven't you shown me why these characters are to be together? And that's, I think, when I become judgmental, not just towards the characters themselves, but I start judging the writing and then trying to make me pay money for that. I'm like, that's not a romance. Why is it, yes, I want sex, but I want to see why these characters are together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
We love sex. Let's put it this way. The steamier, the better.
Mm-hmm.
But with the caveat that there has to be development with the characters. And you have to see why they want to be together and not just have sex with each other. I'm like,
yes. It's a huge turn off for me.
Exactly. And I've read
we're just strictly reading books that say that it's romance, and then you get that just like a kick in the teeth, because I've wasted maybe 3 hours, 4 hours reading the book, and I feel like I have been betrayed. It's horrible.
It is horrible. You feel like you're being cheated because you're like,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah, the sex was great, but that's not the only reason I'm reading this book. And I'm like, you can have really great sex and that would be wonderful, but where is the rest of it? Like, where is that emotional connection? Because if I'm not seeing that, then I'm going to judge the fuck out of your character, and then I'm going to judge you as an author. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, as a writer myself, I know how difficult, and yet I still try and achieve that in everything I write. Erotic romance, I still try to make, as you know, still try to make sense as to why these characters actually like each other and why they want to be together, so that they're not just, oh, we're having really good sex. Yes, they are having that, but you have to, as a writer, on the other side of this because we're not just readers, we're also writers. You have to be able to show that development between the two characters. And I think that is a difficult thing. And I would never want anyone to judge me, even though I do it to other authors. Is that terrible?
Oh.
I guess it is. All of this is very subjective because we're writers, but we're readers. And yeah, it's difficult.
It is. It's. Oh,
I don't know what this episode is turning.
This episode has actually touched upon quite a few
many topics now.
But we were still going to be talking about like books that finish, books that, you know, like we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. But
yeah, I think we're going to touch on lots of subjects because one thing leads into another. With that.
It really does. It's like it really does with us about books.
Yeah, I think
so many.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this podcast and we're gone off on a tangent, that's just me and Sab. It's just what you're going to get with it. Okay, so back to the original topic. I think we should probably wrap this up here.
I think so.
So this has been about our podcast about why are women so judgmental, which has turned into something else entirely, I'm sure. I think in the closing, maybe we can all try and look at the way that we view women in fiction and men, not just women, view characters in general, and maybe we can try and not judge, but maybe just try and be equal in our judgment. I think that's my takeaway message, is to try and equally judge everyone.
I think that's a perfect message.
Oh, good. Okay, so we'd like to say thank you for listening to Made in Romance. I have been your host. I've been your host, Sarah Bailey, and my co-host here, Sab.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.
And so sorry for that long rant. But that's just what to expect, I guess. But...
yeah, you've got to expect some rants from us because we will be talking about, because that's just what we do. I think that's just who we are. We're Brits. We like to complain about shit, and at least we're not complaining about the weather for.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, until next time, everybody. This has been Made in Romance, and we will see you very soon.
Bye, guys.